Welcome. You are listening to the Be a Better Being podcast hosted by Michelle Zellner and Sasha Berscheid. Michelle and Sasha are here to give you information and inspiration to help you live your healthiest, happiest lives. Thank you for tuning in. We hope you enjoy the show.
Greetings. Thank you for joining the Be a Better Being podcast. I'm Michelle Zellner, your host, and I have with me today the beautiful Sasha. And I'm telling you, darling, you look radiant. What is going on in your life to have this glow?
It's called a ring light.
Okay, well, I have a feeling it's way much more than that, but anyway, you look gorgeous today. Always excited to get to have interesting conversations and really grateful for this current guest that we're going to have on today. September is Childhood Obesity Awareness Month. And while I don't have children, as we all know by now, this topic is something that I am really interested and concerned about. And I'll probably in our conversation tell you why I feel very strongly about this. But I think it's something that we all need to have an honest conversation about. And I hate that I even really feel like I have to say this, but I'm going to. This is not about fat shaming, body shaming, being exclusive, not including people who are larger. This is about an honest, true conversation about health and what excess weight does to our health and what an unhealthy body weight does to our health. And when I look at the statistics, and they are alarming, of childhood obesity in the US, it is not getting better. That is the sad news. And we have been talking about this for decades. As you all know, 25 years right here. Now, I can't say I've been talking about it for 25 years, but kind of. It's not getting better. So I hope when you listen to this and when you hear our guest, you will just take in the information. Obviously, we're going to hope that you'll go and do something very beneficial with it. So with all of that, let me welcome our guest, Noha Polack. Thank you so much for joining us today, Noha. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you, ladies, for having me on your great podcast. I'm super excited because this is my zone of happiness to talk about this topic. So I am a pediatrician. I've been practicing in New Jersey since 1996, and I love what I do. I love seeing kids, all ages. And over the last, I would say 10 years, I've seen a lot of kids struggle with their weight. But over the last 2 years, it really came to a head where things got so much worse during the pandemic. And that's when I started to be more of a speaker about it, because I love having these conversations one-on-one with my patients, but I feel like there's a lot more to be said to a lot more people out there. So that's my goal, to just say it to as many people as they'll allow me to say it to. So I love talking about childhood health, especially kids who struggle with weight.
Well, thank you for that preamble into all of this. Tell us a little bit maybe about your own upbringing, and did you struggle with weight, body image, how to have a healthy relationship with food? Sasha and I have both talked extensively about this, about our own journeys and challenges. That is one of the reasons I'm very passionate about this, because I know the things that we are literally fed, as well as the ideas that we are fed as we are growing up, stay with us forever. They shape our behaviors, our beliefs, our attitudes, our habits, and those are the things that create the outcomes. And it's so hard, all the mixed messages, all the things we learn that were wrong, the difficulty parents have with just trying to get food on the table, from a cost perspective, but just because we're very busy, on the go kind of people as well. So what is your experience? What is your relationship as you grew up, and why is this something that you're very passionate about?
So I love the question, because I'm an immigrant to the U.S. I moved to the U.S. when I was 10 years old. So my parents are, they were all excited about being in the U.S. and, we could buy whatever we want in the supermarket, and that they did. And they used to buy those 2-liter bottles of soda and put them in the fridge. And so, to be perfectly honest, I gained a ton of weight when I moved to the US at the age of 10. And at 16, I was unhappy with my body. at the time, and I didn't know what to do about it. And to be honest, at that point, there was not a whole lot of help out there for me, right? For someone like myself, who was a teenager who didn't know a whole lot, and my pediatrician certainly didn't talk about it, right? If my heart was beating, my lungs were clear, okay, go get your shots, it's all done. So now it's a whole different story. So I did struggle with it, to be honest, through high school and college, and even through medical school, because it's really hard to focus on anything but studying when you're in medical school. And then I would say that after I had my children, and I have two of them, that I start to have this awakening of saying, wait a minute, I am feeding my children healthy. Am I also feeding myself healthy? So that's where my journey began, in kind of undoing what my parents unknowingly, exposed me to food wise and drink wise, certainly in terms of juices and sodas.
Yeah, I would imagine you are not alone with that. And I know, like, our attitude about food and feeling like these are the treats, right? I show you love by giving you these things. And parents are doing the best that they can, and we want to be the fun parents, or it's convenient. And unfortunately, the way we do things here in the US is, hey, the quick result with little to no effort, and if it can really be cheap, that's fantastic. Where did you come from? Where did you immigrate from?
From Egypt.
Oh, very different culture, very different attitude about food and abundance of food, access to food.
And exercise,
right?
Attitude.
Yes. Yeah, those absolutely go hand in hand. We certainly not only need to talk about our kids and nutrition, but our kids and their lack of movement as well. Sasha, since you have kids, chime in here. How are you doing as a very busy parent and, taking care of two very young kids, and how do you make it happen?
Yeah, so I'm thinking about it, and Draco is a toddler boy. He is your neurotypical toddler boy who wants potato chips for every meal of the day. Like, he loves chips. It's just, he's a salty, he likes savory popcorn. He's not into sweets. So my battle with Draco is the chips, okay? My battle with Cayenne has autism. She's particular with what she eats. So my battle with Cayenne is not only is she eating enough? And then when she is eating, I kind of just have to close my eyes and just pray for the best that, we're going to make it, that we're getting the amount of calories that we need. Because, if I can give her something that is going to be, example, a cracker. The cracker is going to be the same every single time, or a chicken nugget. The chicken nugget's going to be the same every time, versus who knows what these blueberries. Now, blueberries are not a good example because she loves blueberries. She loves any type of berries, strawberries, things like that. She likes fresh stuff. But it is a little bit different when it comes to autism, because they're a little bit more particular in the foods, and it's not just something that I can be like, let's try everything. For me, it's more, what can we feed you so that you gain weight? So my experience as a parent has been a little different with both the children and feeding. Cayenne, we've always struggled with getting her to eat. She was sent home with an NG tube. She's never had a regular, that's just my life, my story. But one thing that I did make sure to do that we didn't do much in my household is soda. I didn't drink much soda as a kid. We don't drink soda in this household. We do limit our treats, right? But it's not something where, when I was a kid, I feel like it was almost too limited. So that when I did get let's say box of Oreos, right? Then I would splurge and I would binge and I would do nothing but sit there and eat the entire thing, get really sick. And then my parents were like, well, we're not getting you Oreos anymore because you just binge eat whatever the treats are that are in the house. So for me, my childhood looks a little different than theirs. We were on the go all the time. They did the best they can. They did pick healthier options when it comes to fast food, right? In the knowledge that we had 10, 20 years ago. My children really don't eat much fast food at all. And for that is we're not in sports. I have the freezer, stuff like that. My kids are a lot more particular, but I do have friends whose children I just want to hug. And I just want to say, like, give that power back to your parents, like lean on your parents, let your emotions and your struggle that you're currently having, even as like an 8-year-old, like let's lean on your parents and let's include your parents in these emotions. Because I remember as a kid emotionally eating, binge eating, and a lot of those things were sugary items, right? So I would get addicted. I would start eating the sugary item, whatever, a fudge bar or cookies or cereal. Cereal was a huge problem in my house for me. And then I couldn't stop. So how can we help parents? How can we help parents of families who are on the go, who don't want to give up that emotional power to their children, but at the same time they need to?
Yeah, that is an excellent question. And I think so much in there to unpack. And Sasha, thank you for sharing, because this isn't just about childhood obesity. This is about how to properly nourish your children. And we can have very difficult challenges, obviously, like, what you have experiencing. And I have other friends who have special needs kids or picky eaters, right? I mean, it can be the spectrum. So I think it is about, I see people and even adults, we're overweight, but we are malnourished because calories are not nutrition. So doctor, if you just kind of explain how you go about navigating this very difficult conversation, because of course it's going to feel like judgment. It's going to feel like you're doing things wrong. I'm sure it can feel a whole bunch of different ways. So share a little bit about what that might even look like in your practice.
I love to talk about what a parent's role is in their child's health journey. So I don't like to say the word weight loss journey, because weight is not my goal, right? I'm not trying to help kids lose weight. I am trying to help kids look and feel healthy. So I want them to like what they see, and I like them to like what they feel. So what is a parent's role, right? You said it perfectly. To do their best, offer the best nutritionally available food in your area, in your neighborhood, and do not be the food police, right? The food police is going to say, don't put that in your mouth. You ate too much of this. Don't do this. Don't do that. But when that starts to happen, the relationship between the parent and the child can really break down and become negative. So the parent's role actually is in the supermarket, right? Whatever you're buying in the store, the quality of that food is your role. Just buy quality foods in normal amounts, right? We don't need to do box store size bags of chips, right? But we do need to have our children eat healthy at least 80% of the time and give them their treats the other 20%. So that's just the role of a parent. So that discussion needs to be had regularly. Secondly, I love to talk about the fact that movement is medicine, okay? If your kid's not moving, for Pete's sake, take away these technologies, because you own the technologies, parent. You are empowered because you pay the bills, okay? Your 8-year-old is not paying the phone bill, okay, or the internet bill. So you are able to take it away and say, we're going to go out. We're going to go for a walk, for a jog. We're going to dance in our living room if we can't go out today. So movement is medicine. Your role starts in the supermarket, parents. It's not to be the food police at home. And whatever you do, don't look at your child and make them feel guilty for how they eat or look, okay? Because scales do not measure willpower. All they measure is a number, okay? So if parents can just focus on that, I feel like our kids will have a much healthier relationship with food, right? So you start early as possible. Toddlerhood is perfect to start, or even sooner. However, if your child's already struggling, then we can still help, right? You can still limit what you're buying. You can still give them their treats part of the time, and you can still help them feel good about themselves, because it's not a flaw that they're gaining weight. It just is.
One of the wonderful things that my pediatrician with Cayenne and Draco, because she knows how picky Draco is, he just wants his chips. And then Cayenne, she's just maybe she'll eat like a bowl of berries for dinner and that's it. And the pediatrician, for me, because I think a lot of this came from guilt as a parent, right? So we feel guilty as a parent. So then we project and that shame or guilt or whatever onto our children. And in my head, I was like, they're not eating, they're never going to grow, or they're not eating the right thing. And my pediatrician just said, just put it in front of them. Put the items, give them a variety, the color of the rainbow, and just show them, like, each and every day, just here are 4 options for you. Don't go out of your way to make a new meal for them. Invite them into your meals with your proteins, your fats, and your fiber, your PFF, right, Michelle? And then the kids will eventually learn, because what I think is a meal for my child is not necessarily the same amount of food for my kiddos know how much food they need for their own body. That lifted a veil off of me of that pressure as a parent. And I was like, oh, okay. So if I just give them a little bit of X, a little bit of Y, and a little bit of Z, and they eat all of X and all of Z, then I can always give them more. But at least I'm presenting these new ideas or these new flavors to them to help their palate grow. I think a lot of it, sometimes 2-part, we were taught by our parents to be ashamed of what we're eating because our parents were taught to be ashamed of what they were eating. So it's just a generational curse where this idea of food, especially for children, if it's food that maybe the parent doesn't have a healthy relationship with, again, it's just projecting. Are you continuously telling your child, no, no, no? And that goes to my second point is what you're saying to your children are hearing it. So if you are telling your child over and over again that they shouldn't be doing something, all that they're hearing in their little head is that they're a failure. And that's going to cause a lot of emotional stress. And then you're just setting them up for that shame for the rest of their life. So it's almost like we need to heal ourselves first and then take our healed versions to the grocery store and then, bring that and bleed it into the kitchen and then into the dining room. And it again is not about the scale. I love that you said that. I am over a year celebrating of not being on the scale because I am not a number. I'm not. I refused to be a number in March of 2021. I decided I would never weigh myself again as long as I don't have to. And I think that that's something else that's really important. So if your child is struggling with weight or they're struggling with emotionally eating or stress eating, what would you say? I'm right here. I'm in your office and I myself am struggling. My child's struggling. How do you handle this? Because this is not just a weird one-off. This is an everyday, the typical American family is, help me. I don't know how to ask these questions. I don't know how to be vulnerable. I don't know how to come forward. I have problems with food, which now my child's going to have problems with food. Tell me what that looks like for you.
I face this at least 3-4 times a day. So I walk into the exam room and I read the room, right? There's usually some sort of tension I can feel in the air. And I always ask permission because I'm doing a general physical exam on a child who looks, healthy, but really stressed out. So I ask permission. Okay, tell me what you want to talk about today. And they often don't bring up their body image issues until I say, can you tell me how you feel when you look in the mirror? What are you feeling? What are you seeing? Are you feeling okay? And if they say, I feel amazing, even if they're overweight, honestly, I just talk about habits, little tiny habits, tell me how many minutes a day you're moving, how many hours of screen time you're doing. And we tweak things really slowly. But if they do show interest and they are struggling with their body image, that's when we go into really detailed information about what helps them, what makes them eat, right? Why do you eat? Are you eating because you're hungry? Are you eating because you're stressed out or you're bored? Who's helping you to the food? Who's buying the food? And it often involves grandma and grandpa. So we have to talk about grandma and grandpa relationships. But to answer your question directly, I take really tiny steps with these kids and their parents. I can't say to them, if you continue to eat chips, then all of a sudden you're going to be super unhealthy. I won't do that. But I'll say, well, how often do you right now eat chips? And if they say 5 times a week, I'll say, okay, what are you willing to decrease it to? You make a choice. It's not my body nor my decision. Sometimes they say, I want to stop it altogether. And I say, if that's really doable for you, it's okay. But it sounds like you love chips. So it sounds like you're going to be depriving yourself. And if you deprive yourself, you're probably going to want to binge on it. So don't do that. How about we go to 3 times a week? Have chips every other day instead of every day. These little tiny steps, if you see over a number of years, really make a huge difference. All right. So you can't go with a child who's used to eating chips 5 days a week to never giving them chips again. That's unfair. But you can decrease the number and you can replace the other, 2 or 3 days a week, those snacks, with something a little healthier, right? You can give them something else that's crunchy. Cucumbers can be crunchy, especially if you dip them in something that the kid likes. So I often say, you know what? How about some slices of cucumber with their favorite dressing, whatever you want their dressing to be that's healthy. So we make those kinds of, little tweaks. We often talk about drinking because one of my biggest pet peeves is juice.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, they were giving juice to toddlers and older in daycares. And I had to go to the meetings, for the schools and say, what are we doing? Stop giving kids juices. And, it worked for a while, but it reverts. Like, I feel like drinking juice and soda and giving your children that early on, it really sets them up for those sugar cravings. And if we can avoid it, then they don't have to struggle with their sugar cravings the way we did, right? You and I certainly struggled with it. So that's how I try to handle. So if there's a parent listening to us and your child is somewhere between the age of 5 and 15 and they're really struggling with their weight, you are still in control. I feel like above the age of 15, the kids just take over control and they go buy whatever they want. And that's a different conversation that I have with the child alone at that point. But between 5 and 15, you guys are still in control. You know what to do in the supermarket. Do it. Don't buy the sugars, right? Limit the number of snacks that you're buying and move. Make movement part of fun in your family. That's the message.
Yeah, I counsel a lot of parents on these things. And I think a big part of the problem is the parents themselves are struggling to make their own healthy choices. So they have to be willing to also do that for themselves, right? I will tell them that you are the gatekeeper. Like you said, these kids aren't the ones going grocery shopping and filling the house with the stuff. You are doing that. Yeah, but they cry for it and they complain about it. And then I feel like a bad parent. And so one of my mottos, doctor, is hard now or harder later. And it is always going to play out. You can make those hard choices now to help set your kids up for success, or they are going to have a harder time later. And it's that struggle. I get it. I really do. Because I went through that situation with myself, right? Having to relearn. And Sasha mentioned PFF. So PFF is your BFF. This is my motto. I wrote a book, Protein, Fat, Fiber is your best friend forever. It's about keeping blood sugar steady. And I don't know what the education about nutrition was like when you were in Egypt as an adolescent, but everything we were taught was 100% wrong, right? Juice. Oh yeah, juice. Don't eat fat. If you eat fat, you'll get fat. You'll die. You'll have a heart attack. Eat grain, lots and lots and lots of grain all day, grain all day. All of it completely wrong. So for my generation and people older than me, and even maybe a little bit past me, we have to completely unlearn all of the things that we were taught. And then we have to relearn. And we don't get proper nutritional education. We also, recess gets taken away because you were naughty. So you have to stay inside and sit detention. Or maybe I just want to mail it in today and we're going to put on a movie and let everybody watch a movie today instead of getting up and being active. And parents can do it. Educators can do it. We all can do it because life is hard and tiring. And yet that then becomes the habit. I've been around families where the kids are like, well, I was already outside for 30 minutes today. As if like, I got to check that box, so now I can go sit and play my games on the couch. I'm like, wait a minute, that is so backwards. So I know we can't change the world all at once, but how can we start changing the message? And not just changing the message, but the delivery of it, and getting people to really understand that, again, this isn't about your weight. This is about the health and well-being and functioning of your brain, your heart, your kidneys, your organs, your energy level, everything. How can we message it that way so that people do maybe take a different kind of look at it?
I mean, I think we should stop calling foods bad and good. I think we should say healthy and less healthy, and that we can have more of the healthy foods and a little bit less of the less healthy foods. That's number one. Number two is I feel like we have to stop the fat shaming, because all it does is make people stress out and feel terrible and eat more and be more unhealthy, both emotionally and physically. So when I see someone who's overweight, and they're ordering something really big in this restaurant and people are staring at them and looking at them, I feel terrible. And I just want to say, like, you know what, go mind your own business, for Pete's sake. You know, you don't know what their cravings are. You don't know what their struggles are. So I want to say to the world to please be mindful that people who struggle with weight, these are not weak people, nor are they flawed people. They're people with a real struggle, right? Just because I was able to lose my 20 or 30 pounds of extra weight loss doesn't mean that person can lose their 100 or 200 pounds just as easily, because it's a whole different dynamic. So obesity in adults and in children really is a disease that should be treated seriously. I think you guys are doing an awesome job helping people with their nutrition and with their activity level, but sometimes it takes even more than that, ladies, like a lot more than that, for them to be able to control their cravings and to get their hormones under control. And they do need medical attention for that at times. And I encourage people to first, at all costs, try nutrition and movement. Once they plateau, get more help. Let's do it. Let's just get more help so that we can, change the whole topic out there of looking at people who are struggling with weight as if they're less than in some way, and they're not. They're not. I've spoken to thousands of people who are so very intelligent and capable, but they are not able to get rid of that excess weight. And if we can get them to a healthy place, regardless of their weight, then we've done our best. And that's all we should do.
That's amazing. For a parent who's struggling to get their child to do movement, what would be your suggestion? How do you suggest getting more movement in? What does that look like for you? Because for me, oh man, you tell me more movement, I'm out the door, I'm excited, I've put my phone away, I'm outside with my kids, I'm doing the things. But that's me, right? So if a parent also doesn't have the best relationship with movement, chances are their child doesn't have the best relationship with movement. I'm in your office with you. You see, we're on a cycle. You already see the trajectory of my future. You see the trajectory of my child's future. What do you say? How do you get me as a parent? How do you get my child involved in movement?
It depends on where you live. If you're in a rural area, you can go out for a walk. That's awesome. My practice is in inner city, right? So yes, they can go out for a walk, but if it's 100 degrees out and there's a bunch of cars around, they're not going to do that. So I usually have a conversation regarding what the parent feels is appropriate and safe to do around their house, whether it's inside or out. We often write it down. We can write down something like, let's have a dance party at 8:00 where we're just dancing to your favorite kind of music. And I'll even have them discuss what kind of music they want to play, what songs they want to play during their dance party, right? And we'll set a time. If this parent has not been moving, then we'll start with 15 minutes. The next month, we'll increase it to 30 minutes, and we'll do it super slow. Nobody's going to get up and run a marathon in a day or a week, right? So we do it real slow. If they are in a setting where they can get out and go for a long walk, then we start by walking. We don't need to do more than walk. If you have a child between 3 and 5, it's so easy to get them involved in a long walk. Just look for things. Look for little bugs, look for different stones and rocks, right? Look for flowers. Awesome. It's really, I would say, the preteens that don't want to get out of their room that are the biggest challenge for parents, I think. Sasha, you'll find out. but the bottom line is the parents are in control of the electronics. So I want to enable these parents to say, I understand this is your phone. It must be put down between this time and this time, and you can do whatever you want. You can sit on the couch and stare at the ceiling, or you can come out with me.
I love that message. Yes. So I know we've sort of talked about all this in relation to weight, but we don't want to focus on weight. So can you just educate parents on how all of this and why all of this is critical for proper growth and development of their little humans? That, I mean, that is kind of what they're designed to do, is to set their little humans up to be happy, healthy, successful, thriving, contributing members of society. So the role that proper nutritional intake as well as movement play in the growth and development of their brains, their muscles, their ability to regulate mood, all of that. Can you touch a little bit about on those topics?
Sure. I think it's super important for people to make sure that their child gets enough protein in their meals. A lot of people are not concentrating on protein, especially in toddlers. They think that it's okay to give them, mac and cheese. And so your children need protein. They need healthy fats, avocados, olive oil, all those healthy nutty fats. Nut butters are amazing. Another thing that your children need is fiber. They need their whole entire fruit with the peel. Yes, I love the peel. So we talk a lot about making sure that you have all of that in your diet, and that you also have healthy carbs, right? Whole grain carbs. So whether it's brown rice or it's whole grain bread, whatever you want, but something needs to be in your children's diet, because that helps not only their growth, development, but their learning. If they don't have the right kind of nutrition, they don't perform in school, right? And that's the basis of having school lunches, but sometimes school lunches are not healthy, which is counterintuitive, which drives me crazy also. So your children need nutrition to learn, to grow, to develop, and then you want them to have a good, healthy relationship with food. And that's the whole point. So if you're giving your children 80% healthy food and only 20% less healthy food, parents, I applaud you. If you think the balance is not there, go ahead and make small changes and get yourself there. It doesn't have to be tomorrow, but it should be in the next year or so.
Yeah, all of that. So I've said this before, but it's so validating when we have a guest on who literally speaks our same words we've never met. We've never had a conversation. And yet you are saying the identical words that Sasha and I say all the time. And it's through our own journeys and experiences that we've learned it, but also by re-educating ourselves and living real life, right? I know that when I was trying to be good, and what that means is hardly eat anything, because that's another message that we get drilled into our brains. And this is something I think too, that, that 5 to 15-year-old and then that young adult age, when maybe body image and weight are really something the kids are thinking about. And, I just need to go on a diet. And now we're going to start the diet roller coaster, and it is going to lead to nothing but problems. So how do we help people avoid that? What are just some practical, simple ways? Because here's what I hear from people all the time. I'm too busy. I'm too busy to meal prep. I'm too busy to go to the grocery store. I have people that don't go to the grocery store. I'm like, how is this possible? How do you do that? Well, because they go order fast food, they have DoorDash, right? The kids have DoorDash. The DoorDash app is on the kids' phone, so the kids can just order their DoorDash. So we go through all this convenience, and it's going to be at the expense, eventually, of the human that is getting the benefit of that convenience in the moment. So what are some practical things that very busy parents can do to get healthier food, to get movement, to get these as lifestyle habits and embrace them not as punishment, but man, we get to honor and nourish our bodies. I'd imagine there are many people, maybe from where you're from, that wish they could eat the food that we could. They would dream of eating these healthy fruits and vegetables and high quality protein and healthy carbohydrates. They don't have access to it. And yet we look at that as punishment, right? Oh, you have to eat healthy. So give us a couple of practical, tangible takeaway tips for parents to help get them set up, and then ideally set their kids up as well.
Well, I'm hoping that they understand that even in the supermarket, you can buy healthy options that you don't have to spend time really cooking, right? So how hard is it to buy a rotisserie chicken and make that your protein for a meal or two? And in addition to that, buy some healthy salad on the side, or make, a small pot of brown rice or pasta, and you've got yourself a meal. That doesn't take more than, I would say, 10 minutes to cook and prepare. And you're waiting for the DoorDash, that takes longer than that, right? So if you're hungry, guys, there's other options. You can get a can of beans and put it in your salad, and that's an awesome protein. You can add nuts to things, and that'll be healthy. If you have your children help you prepare a meal, you're setting them up not only for health, but also for being capable of preparing their own healthy meals when they're old enough to do it on their own. So you're not only modeling, you're getting help, and you're helping them be healthy. So you have to go to the supermarket. Seriously, that's not optional. Okay. When you're at the supermarket, even if you don't know what you're going to cook that week, have your staples with you all the time. What are your staples? You should always have proteins, healthy fats, fruits and vegetables, and have them in your cart all the time, so that when you're hungry, you're not going to start, oh, what am I going to buy? No, you're going to reach in there for that can, or for that chicken, or whatever it is that you're going to eat, or they have fish prepared for you, that you can have, salmon and other healthy things. So I think you can go into the market and do that. So yes, we're all busy. If you want to order out once or twice a week, I think that's reasonable, right? But if you're ordering out every day, that's really a red flag for an unhealthy pattern of eating. So dieting is simply replacing one abnormal eating pattern with another abnormal eating pattern. So I don't like the word diet. I don't like the word dieting. And I would never put a child on a diet, right? I would never do that. All I would do is say, okay, well, tell me your habits now. What are you willing to change to be healthier? And do only one thing at a time. Don't change your whole life at once. It's impossible. I can't do it. I don't think anyone can do it. And that's the message.
And for parents who are listening to this and you feel guilty, literally take what she just said to heart. Just one small change every day will add up to a lifetime of success for this individual. And do it for yourself. If you're going to ask your child to emulate this, do it for yourself. Drink water. I don't like water. Figure out a way to like water. One of the meanest things that I used to say when I was doing Sasha's 7-day, and people would say, I don't like water. Oh my gosh. I would just look at them and and I'm so sorry, not trying to offend you, but I'd say, grow up. Drink your water. You need to drink your water. One thing that I do want to add that has helped me as a parent, when I went to Tahoe and I was with, I call them my healers, because they helped me get out of a really dark place this last summer here in June. I was struggling connecting with my daughter. I was struggling feeling maternal. I was struggling feeling like a mother, because I see all my friends being maternal and having matching little outfits with their daughters and, doing all these things. And I'm like, what is wrong with me? And the most maternal friend that I have, her name is Sarah Nunn. She has 3 biological children. She just adopted her 4th child, who was is her sister's daughter. So what she looked at me and she said, Sasha, studies show that if you show up as a parent 30% of the time, okay, that's 30%. That means just having your phone down 30% of the time that you're having with your children and you're interacting with them, that will build up or accrues over time to having a good relationship, being a good parent. And I was like, well, if I show up for 30% of their childhood, man, that is so doable. And so now, my goal is how can I go above and beyond 30%? And I feel like, you said 80%. So for the food on the table, correct? So you have 80%, give yourself some grace, give yourself some leeway. And then additionally, when you're out there and you're struggling to put your phone down because you just need to get out and do movement, think about the 30%. Okay, here's your chance to 30% show up for your child. And then additionally, show up for yourself. Movement is medicine. It's a beautiful way to help you connect with your child. It will help you. It will be good for your body. It'll be fantastic for your child's body. And then they'll see mommy and daddy are playing, mommy and daddy are sweating. So I want to go out and I want to participate and I want to sweat with mommy and daddy. They're not thinking about sweating. But, the last thing, and I'm going to leave you with this, is I feel like this was all on a recent post of mine. Maria Goff, she is married to Bob Goff. He's a famous pastor and book writer. Maria Goff wrote one book. Her nickname is Sweet Maria. And she said every parent has the ability to show up to 2 childhoods. And if you do it correctly, the second childhood should be better. So what that means is just show up for your kids. Just be there for your kids. Help them become a better being. Take what you have learned. Stop the cyclical issues and just confront them. What emotional challenges have you been having? Why do you have that with food? And why are you passing that down with your child? What trauma have you had with water or movement? And why are you passing that down to your child? Focus on you. Let's fix you. Let's become a better being. And then let's stop shaming yourself, stop guilting yourself, because that was where my problem was when I felt guilty that I wasn't showing up for Kyan, but it's not showing up. I just have to remove that veil and say, let's do this. And a little baby changes over a lifetime will be significant for you, your family. And, someday you never know, your child will come back and they'll say, Mom, thank you. Thank you for caring. Thank you for being hard on me. Thank you for educating me, for empowering me, for supporting me. You're going to have tantrums, but if you're there and you know why you're standing there, if it's out of true intent and out of pure love, you can't be blamed.
I just have one thing to add to that great things you just said, is that if you're a single parent and you're feeling guilty about being a single parent, I deal with this often. Studies have shown that one important person in a child's life is enough. Children can thrive and be amazing with one parent. So stop feeling guilty about it. You don't need to give them food to help you feel better about being a single parent. It's okay to be a single parent. Single parents can be effective, awesome, and these kids can definitely thrive. So if you're holding on to that single parent guilt, let it go. It's not that big a deal. One's enough.
Thank you for adding that. That is such an important message, because as we know, there are a lot of single parents trying to do their best, and that mom guilt is real. That single parent guilt is real. Before we officially wrap up, though, I do want to circle back to the grandparents. And here's where I'm going to tell my story, why I am so passionate about this. It was when I was in my 20s, I was engaged. He had a daughter from a previous relationship, and his parents were raising her, and we lived relatively close. So we would go on the weekends and visit. And I witnessed what I knew was going to be a really difficult life for this young girl at some point. So she was 3 when I got to be in her life, and it was amazing. She was already a little chunky, and we just celebrate the chunky little ones, right? Oh, we love the little fat cheeks and how cute they are. But I know that you start out that way, it's only going to get harder. And then I see her eating, and Gigi, grandma, do you want more? No, Gigi, I'm full. Oh, come on. You need to eat more. You need to eat more. No, Gigi, I'm full. Oh, here, let me just have a little more. Well, of course, because you don't want to upset Gigi. You want to make sure you make her happy. So you eat more. And then you feel guilty if you don't eat more. And so fast forward 12 years later, I'm no longer in this relationship, but I'm creeping around on Facebook because I'm very curious. And I saw exactly what I knew I was going to see. A roughly 250, 300 pound, 15-year-old girl. And that was heartbreaking. And yet I knew it was going to be the case. And so anybody who's a pusher, Whether you are pushing it on your friend, your significant other, your sibling, your child, your grandchild, stop pushing food, please. Food is not love. It really isn't. And a lot of times the food that we use to show love is actually poison. So, doctor, what message do you have for grandparents, and how can we maybe get out of that, oh, but I'm the fun grandparent, I just want to give them whatever they want. That's my job, is to spoil them.
I think I try to meet grandparents where they came from. Some of them came from a real place of lack. There's no abundance in their childhood, so they feel that's what they need to do, is to have abundance everywhere. I often do talk to grandparents about this, and I help them understand that if they're diabetic, that it's possible their grandchild will be diabetic much younger than they ever were because of the choices. And then I try to give them other options. So grandparents out there, if you're listening, okay, if you're diabetic and you're overfeeding your grandchild, please stop. And also try to show them love with some other way. It could just be spending time together. Coloring together will show just as much love as feeding someone. Going for a walk will also show just as much love as feeding someone. You're right. This is a really difficult conversation to have with a grandparent that feels like they didn't have enough all their lives, and now they get to make sure their grandchildren have enough and more.
Well, that is a wonderful way to wrap this up. I think this was a really great and important conversation. I hope people are taking this to heart and take the advice, and, give yourself grace, because we can't change anything we've already done, but we can reflect, we can look inward, we can decide what we want to do going forward. Any final thoughts, doctor, before we officially wrap up? Anything that we didn't get out there that you really need people to know?
Yeah, I just want to point out the important part of mental health when it comes to body image and diet. So parents, if you're struggling emotionally and you can see your child struggling emotionally, please put on your own oxygen mask right away. Go get yourself some help in terms of mental health so that you can help them both physically and mentally.
That's beautiful.
Fantastic.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's an incredible ending note. Your kids are going to emulate what you are, what you say, those little ears. My mom used to sing me a song, oh, be careful, little eyes, what you see, be careful, little ears, what you hear, oh, be careful, little mouth. And so it's the same thing. I mean, my kids aren't just coming up with these whatever situation, words, moments, feelings, emotions all on their own. They're learning from me. So put your oxygen mask on, friends. We're here to help you put your oxygen mask on.
Yes, excellent. Well, I have a feeling that we could have you back on to dive into that topic specifically. You've been really fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us and sharing your message with our audience. We really, really appreciate it. Everybody, thank you for listening. I hope that you will just decide to go and be a better being.
Thank you so much for having me, ladies.
Thank you for listening to the Be a Better Being podcast. Michelle and Sasha hope that what you heard today inspires you to embrace this journey of life with an open mind, a kind heart, and a willingness to learn and evolve. If you enjoyed the content, please help spread their message by subscribing, sharing, and leaving a 5-star review. If you have a show topic idea or would like to be a guest, please visit betterbeings.net and fill out a contact form. Until next time, go and be a better being.